homework, sir. Good luck with your test on Tuesday.
As long as it's balanced, I'm good.
On
It's a
Tuesday.
little heavier than last year's.
I got this electronic.
These chairs drive me crazy.
Electronic would be good.
111, Mike 1, Mike
I
1.
remember I had the back issue, so everything's going along good. I go visit my aunt last Thursday, and I'm missing home. They have these kind of chairs. So I sat there for about an hour, and then I started. To sit up, and the next day we started all over again.
111. Aaron, could you bring this up just a tiny bit? Mike 1, microphone number 1, Mike 1. Mike 1.
We never heard from Jason today about. Did Jason send an email regarding the Coalition for the Homeless inspection?
Not that I saw. But I also, that's the first I'm hearing about that at all, so.
Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Tuesday, December 9th, 2025 meeting of the Plymouth Select Board. We are at our Town Hall on the Road here at Cold Spring Elementary School. Please join the board in a pledge to the flag. Thank you. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting, including the Plymouth Select Board, after notifying the chair, subject to the reasonable requirements of the chair, so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. At the beginning of such meeting, the chair will inform the other attendees of any recordings. At this time, I'm only aware of the recording by the local scene. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act relative to the extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which was signed into law on March 28, 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means and in person. Members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so by tuning into the local scene, government cable access channels, Comcast 9 or Verizon 47. They may watch the proceedings live as it's aired or watch the meeting live on the local scene website. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so by appearing in person here at Cold Spring Elementary. We're in the gymnasium at 25 Alden Street in Plymouth. Or you can participate remotely by clicking the link which is found on the agenda, which is posted on our website. A quick announcement for my fellow board members. I've been informed by the local scene that we have to be exceptionally close to the microphones here tonight, so please make sure that you are talking about an inch away from the microphone when you do speak. We'll move into administrative notes. I've been asked by Mr. Cohan to pull out number 2. Pleasure of the board on numbers 1 and 3.
Move them as listed.
Mr. Quintal makes a motion to approve administrative notes 1 and 3. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it's unanimous. Mr. Cohan on number 2.
I just wanted to take this time to recognize obviously the office, I just wanted to take this time to recognize the Office of Energy Environment in the Wildlands Trust. As it comes to these decisions that town meeting makes regarding the CPA fund and land purchases, these 2 conservation restrictions we're signing tonight, it's almost 75 acres of land that are going to go under permanent protection. And I want to thank that department and its due diligence in getting the restrictions done and working with the Wildlands Trust of Southeastern Massachusetts, which will have the burden of this restriction that we're signing tonight in the passage and the adoption of both Pinnacle Bog Preserve and Rocky Point Preserve. So I just wanted to take the time to note the efforts that have gone involved between town staff, nonprofit organizations, town meeting, in the use of the CPA funds to preserve nearly 75 acres of land tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohan. Would you like to make a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Mr. Cohan makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Canty makes the second. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Mr. Cohan?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes, it is approved. We'll turn things over now to the town manager for the town manager's report.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have a number of items to report this evening. Some have a direct impact on this neighborhood in North Plymouth as a whole. Some are just general announcements, as I typically make during my weekly town manager's report. So I'll start from the top. So as we all know, the Zoning Board of Appeals has been holding public hearings for the Pulte projects over the last couple months. As you all know, it's a 163-unit condominium 40B project that's being proposed. The ZBA has held multiple hearings. They do have a scheduled continuance scheduled for December 15th. I have been made aware as of today that they will make an announcement at December 15th meeting that they're going to continue that discussion into January. There's not going to be a discussion with Pulte on December 15th. They are waiting for additional information. So for those of you folks that plan on attending that, just know it's going to be continued to the next January meeting. Additionally, relative to Pulte, the Conservation Commission will be holding their hearing on December 16th. Regarding some infrastructure updates, the Cherry Street water main design is near completion. As we all know, the Cherry Street water main has had multiple water main breaks over the last couple of years. This has triggered a top priority for the engineering division to design a new water main. So we're hoping that this will go out to bid this spring for a summer construction period. And speaking of Cherry Street, the traffic signal design at Court and Cherry Street is at 90% design phase. Currently, the design consultant is finalizing those plans. We'll announce those as we get closer to construction on that. In addition to the traffic signal, we have proposed intersection improvements at Court Street, at Cherry, and Prince Street. The proposed intersection improvements will consist of roadway widening, adding dedicated turning lanes, new signal equipment along with new sidewalks and ADA wheelchair ramps. Currently, the project is at 95% design. The town will be coordinating with our design consultant to account for any newly proposed developments, such as Pulte, and any recent changes to the intersection as we proceed to 100% design. I just want to caveat that last statement relative to this infrastructure improvement. This is something that the DPW has been discussing for years now. This is not related to anything that Pulte will be doing. So our intention is to continue to move forward with or without the Pulte project relative to this intersection. Moving on to Health and Human Services, the Plymouth Community Health Survey is still ongoing. We continue to encourage North Plymouth residents and all of our community residents to participate so that they can make their voices heard. I've mentioned in the past that this information is available on the town's website. The survey is anonymous, voluntary, and completing it allows participants to enter to win one of 3 raffle prizes. It could be a kid's tablet, a $150 Amazon gift card, and a $100 Amazon gift card. So again, I mentioned in the past, this is the first ever that the town is embarking on a community health initiative. So right now, we're conducting the community health assessment phase. Once we gather that quantitative and qualitative data, we then will be moving to a community health improvement planning phase. So this is going to set really the roadmap for a community health improvement for the next 5 years here in this community. And we are working very closely with BID and all of our other community partners on this effort. Moving on, for those needing additional nutritional support this winter, we have a flyer, which should be right out here on the table, that contains a list of local food resources in the area. So please take advantage of that. The Plymouth Task Force and Homelessness, in partnership with Father Bills, has released the Nights of Hospitality list for those seeking shelter during cold months. So Father Bills was with the board last week. They presented their proposed new homeless shelter, which will be on Summer Street. So again, we continue to work with Father Bills through our Health and Human Services Department to try to end homelessness in our community. The Library Foundation is hosting a Pitches with Santa event on December 11th from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Plymouth Public Library main branch. This event is free and open to the public. The Medic Now Foundation and the Plymouth Area Veterans Center are donating 1,000 prepared meals to veterans, active duty, and military families across Plymouth County on December 23rd, 2025, from 3 to 6. For more information or to reserve your meal, please contact our Veteran Service Officer, Roxanne Whitbeck. Her phone number is 508-747-1620. Moving on to the Plymouth PD, the police department continues to have a representative attending the North Plymouth Steering Committee meetings. As you all know, Chief Dana Flynn initiated this community connection program about a year ago and wants to ensure that we always have a presence at all of our steering committee meetings. So at their meeting on November 19th, Officer Sean Ireland attended and discussed the Thanksgiving Day parade restrictions. He also talked about the National Day of Mourning. The next meeting is scheduled on December 17th at 7 p.m. at Cottage Park. So we had a number of questions that came in through the chairman from the precincts and others asking specific questions about this neighborhood. So I'll try to touch on a few of those. So as we all know, the school department is embarking on a feasibility study regarding the consolidation of Cold Spring Elementary, this building, and Hedge Elementary. So currently, the MSBA is meeting on Friday, December 12th, to vote to accept Hedge Elementary into the feasibility stage. The eligibility phase has been completed, which included the district providing maintenance plans, enrollment numbers, building permit history, along with proposed developments and voting to fund the feasibility study. The funding for the feasibility study was approved at Springtown meeting, as you all know. During this stage, we procured an OPM and a design Services to work with the MSBA to document the education program, generate initial space summary, document existing conditions, establish design parameters, develop and evaluate alternatives, and recommend the most cost-effective and educationally appropriate preferred solution to the MSBA. And that presentation will take again on December 12th. Intersection at Standish and Alden, the engineering division has requested that the Old Colony Planning Council perform a new study for the proposed four-way stop analysis to evaluate the intersection of Standish and Alden Street. OCPC began collecting this data using traffic counters today, and will be picking up those counters on December 19th. So they'll take that data, they'll apply that data to conducting a warrant analysis, and that warrant analysis will determine whether or not it's appropriate to put a four-way stop at the corner, again, at Standish and Alden. I've been told that this has been conducted in the past, and the analysis has never met the warrant. So again, we'll keep the community posted, and the only way to do that, again, is if we meet the warrant. There was concerns raised regarding excessive traffic speeds and muffler noise on Court Street. So I have a report from Captain Manuel from the PD, and he only has data here. So I'll just report some of the data. The number of motor vehicle complaints was 40. Now, this goes back from January 1st of 2025 to December 7th of 2025. Over that period of time, we've had 40 motor vehicle complaints. We had 186 motor vehicle stops. The PD issued 172 citations during that period. 36 arrests were made also during that period. Motor vehicle accidents or calls for 911. We had 79 motor vehicle accidents. We had 11 individuals do a hit and run, and one pedestrian was hit in a motor vehicle accident during that time. So we'll continue to monitor that. I have to say, loud mufflers is a continued problem, not in just this area, but certainly we get a lot of complaints in the downtown area, especially during the summer months. We need to do a better job of trying to analyze how we mitigate those problems. As we know, whether they're loud mufflers with motorcycles or pickup trucks nowadays, we don't have the bylaws in place, number one, to be able to enforce any rules. And more importantly, no bylaw is effective unless you have the resources out there to conduct the enforcement. So it's something we continue to struggle with, but we'll continue to look at it as an organization. And I guess I'll just end with the status of 0 Spooner Street, which you all know is the old Station 7. We issued an RFP approximately, I want to say it was about 6 months ago. We had one individual who responded to the RFP. Actually, sorry, 2 individuals, organizations responded to the RFP. We made an award to one of those individuals. We spent the better part of 3 to 4 months negotiating a purchase and sale agreement. We weren't able to come to an agreement, so we rescinded that award letter to that individual. So we will be working very closely with the Select Board on next steps. I would imagine we will revise that RFP and go back out to bid. But it's definitely the intention of the Select Board to be able to sell that building for further repurposing. Pending any questions, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Questions from the board? All right. Hearing and seeing none, we'll get into the main reason why we're here tonight, and that's to take questions from the public in our open Q&A session. The way this has worked in the past is that each person will have an opportunity to come up and speak for up to 3 minutes. You can ask a question, you can register a comment, you can do whatever you wish with your 3 minutes. But I will ask that, because there are so many folks here tonight, that you keep your remarks to 3 minutes. We're going to take 3 presenters on each topic that is addressed. Once 3 presenters have come up, we'll move on to the next topic. We'll come back to topics at the end if folks still wish to address those issues. But we're going to wait. We're going to make sure that we give everyone their fair share time. I'll give preference to the folks who are in the room, but I'll also ask if there is anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak on a given subject. So at this time, I will turn things over to the public. Would anyone like to come to the microphone, introduce themselves, and register a comment or ask a question?
Hi, my name's Kevin Leary. Yeah, I thought you could hear me, maybe. My name's Kevin Leary, and I live on Centennial Street. I'm a town meeting member now for over 20 years. Likewise, the North Plymouth Steering Committee. I was glad to hear from the town manager about Court, Prince, and Cherry Streets being well along as far as the planning stage, because that has come up quite a bit at the steering committee. Likewise, the police chief and the liaison, Officer Sean Ireland, has been, I would say, at almost all of our meetings since he was appointed to our liaison, and it's great having him there because he's always there to answer questions, and he's just kind of become an integral member of the board, or the committee. The Pulte issue is a big one for the committee because of safety. There's a lot of issues with Hedge Road and the fact that there are not sidewalks there. I did contact engineering, and I got a copy of Prince that Hedge does have a layout that was, the first layout that I was forwarded was done in 1923. The second one, I think, was done in 1930. So there's plenty of room to work with as far as layout, sidewalks, and so forth. As far as the North Plymouth Fire Department, it would be great if that could be worked out so that that building was at least preserved in the facade, the street facade. That particular building had a horse-drawn fire apparatus in it. So it's been around for a long time. And it just would be nice, and the building obviously needs some work, but it would be nice to see some of that work going on to just preserve it. I wouldn't care if somebody bought it and never moved in there, but at least keep the thing looking nice and get the roof back in good shape. So anyway, I think you touched base on most of those things, Mr. Brindisi, and I'm sure there's plenty of other things to come up. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. I would say that that's a general infrastructure or planning topic. Does anyone from the board or the staff wish to respond? Mr. Cohen?
I've had a chance to attend the North Plymouth Steering Committee. This issue came up. I think in the future, I'd advocate to my fellow board members that as we start to plan how we're going to release an RFP for that building, that there is some input from the neighborhood on the direction we go. Obviously, that may be the direction, but I think that the neighborhood knows best in many ways in the history, and we want to have that input. But in the end, there are procurement laws that the town has to follow, and the board has to follow. But it's always good to reach out to a steering committee or a wealth of information. So thank you for your input.
We'd love to help. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board? Mr. Quinto?
Yeah, I don't know so much about an RFP and how that all works, right down to a bid. But with the issues that building has, I don't see the town getting a lot of money for it. So if I had a preference before checking into it, I'd like to leave it as, like you say, as it is, and hand it over to Habitat for Humanity or one of the developments for affordable housing. Not so much maybe the federal government, but let's keep it local from what happened over at Oak Street. So if I have a choice and a voice in the matter, that's where I'm going to lean. for the amount of money that we're gonna get for that building, which is really nothing, but, you know, if there's a group out there that, you know, can pick it up and move forward and make some units out of it for the general purpose of the people, then I'd support that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Mr. Canty?
So the town, while it does own Zero Spooner Street, could apply for brownfield money to try and clean up the site and make it more attractive for any future use, including affordable housing by the entities that were mentioned or any other entity. So I would advocate that we pursue that avenue as well, because I do think, I don't think that there are a lot of uses outside of housing, you know, small numbers based on the size of that parcel and the lack of parking at that parcel. It is a fire station that predates fire engines, which is interesting in its own right. They actually had to put on, when they had fire trucks there, they had to build special mirrors so they could fit in and out, because the ones that come standard on trucks would not function. And living in North Plymouth, I used to have to drive past them washing the trucks in the middle of the intersection many times, so I don't miss that. But I would like to see it do a use that's similar to the old fire station that's on South Street, which is a relatively similar footprint and has been turned into some residential. So, but we shall see what in particular. But I do think that brownfields money would be a good use of the town's effort. Thank you.
Mr. Quintel?
Yeah, Kevin, I agree with you. I did ask Mr. Gold a month or so ago to check out the Brownsfield Act and see if there still was money available, because that's the same route we use for the Revere Copper site.
Yes.
Anything else from the board or the staff? Excellent. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak on infrastructure or planning?
Karen Edwards. I live in Highcliffe on 23 Prince Street. I don't know how far you are on going forward with the project on Hedge Road and Prince Street. Is that what you're talking about right now?
No, this is the old fire station that we've been discussing, but Mr. Leary did mention the Pulte project, so I'm happy to hear from you if you'd like to speak on that.
Okay. The traffic and the pedestrian and the cars on Prince Street. What would happen, according to the plans, for that 40B project between Hedge Road and Prince Street? Currently, at the end of Prince Street, which is a dead end, as you know, there is a driveway on the plan that they're going to build to go down into one of the two buildings right beside Prince Street. So I have a few questions. Is there any way that we can ask the developers to move those two buildings closer to where there's already an empty space that the development company owns on Hedge Road, where they currently have a warehouse on Hedge Road, and that part of that wooded parcel is already cleared. So I don't understand why you have to clear-cut the forest and put two buildings up against Prince Street. The traffic would be unbelievable. I live in Highcliffe. There are 80 apartments in Highcliffe Senior Housing. There are 50 cars that have taken up and overtaken the number of spaces available. Coming down the driveway onto Prince Street would be extremely difficult. And so I'm wondering, is there something that we can still work with the developers on regarding this 40B project? Number one. Number two, I won't keep you another second here. 40B projects really need to be worked on, and it has to go through the state. And there is a way that we could, confront 40B projects with the state. I've heard some information. If any of you have information on how to go forward with that, please let us know so that we could help you out with stopping this 40B project. I know there's a minimum and a maximum, but there are a very small section of rules that we can deny this project and deny it legally. So
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. I would say that the issue of 40B is most certainly a state issue, and I think many on this board have expressed their concerns about 40B, both as board members and as citizens. I would strongly encourage you and others to reach out to our legislative delegation. For North Plymouth, that's Representative Lenatra. For anyone in the room who may be from the precincts in the Plymouth 1st District, that would be Representative Badger, and also Dylan Fernandez. I would also encourage you to write to the governor and the lieutenant governor, because their agenda is very housing forward. So my perspective is that any time that the state can give us local control, they should, and certainly land use, I think, is as local as it gets. So that's what I would say in response to your question about 40B. In regards to whether or not we can ask the developer to put the buildings closer together, we can certainly ask. We can ask anything. They may not be receptive to that, but I would also encourage you to reach out to the ZBA, in whose hands this project now rests, so that they know of your concerns, and we can ask the town staff to pass that along to the planning department as well.
Right. The ZBA meeting is next Monday night, December 10th, and there's no way that this particular area of North Plymouth can handle the traffic. There's just no way.
As Mr. Brindisi said during his update, it's December 15th.
Oh, okay, December 15th. Okay,
Mr. Canty?
thank you.
So that meeting on the 15th is going to be, that the Pulte project's going to be postponed to a January meeting. So it was originally scheduled for the 15th. It's still on there, but they're just going to ask for a continuance that was in the town manager's report. So I've been going, as has Ms. Iaquinto, to those meetings to oppose that particular project. This board opposed that project as well in an official capacity. But you don't need to go on the 15th. If you're interested in talking about Pulte, it'll be back in January.
And what's the latest date? Is it March?
They started it on September 29th, I believe, so they have 6 months, so they have until March 29th or thereabouts to conclude it. They have to conclude the matter within 180 days. There are ways that the ZBA can deny the project. I believe that the ZBA should do that. I believe that Pulte has demonstrated that they are doing the absolute minimum that they are required to do in many ways. I think that the amount of parking that they are suggesting is woefully inadequate, not even for the number of residents, let alone guests. There's no guest parking. I think the overflow parking from residents and guests will only exacerbate the traffic concerns that are going to be caused by that project and the existing ones in that area. I think that the traffic study that they put forward is ridiculous on its face, suggesting that large numbers of people just don't go to work during rush hour or don't return home during that time. I'm not sure what these people are doing with their lives. I know that not everyone works a 9 to 5, but more people do than would be suggested by that particular study. I think that that developer, we were trying to work with that developer at an earlier point, and they walked away from the table. And not only did they walk away, but they made the project worse for the neighborhood. So I think that's important to highlight, that this is, in my opinion, a very aggressive, unfriendly, out-of-town developer that is using a state statute that I am not in favor of to force a project into our neighborhood that they are telling us is an asset when it is not, and it is not something that this community wants. This board was able to successfully delay the Atlantic Country Club acquisition, and that was in South Plymouth. This is in North Plymouth, which happens to be my neighborhood as well as, Mr. Quintal's neighborhood. But I think all of us would oppose this project regardless of where it was located geographically. It is not the right project for the area that it is situated in, and it is not something that Plymouth needs. We do need affordable housing, but not like this. I have been and will continue to oppose this project with all of my might, and we will see where it goes. But I would say that the biggest and most effective thing that you and other members of this community can do is to show up to those ZBA meetings and make your voices heard, because that room is full of people that disagree with the project, many of whom have spoken, but not all have. And I think that the more people that speak in opposition, the better, because that is a very powerful force, public sentiment. I think the only people in that room that I've seen that are in favor of the Pulte project are those employed by Pulte. So, but please do continue to show up, continue to advocate, and continue to fight. I think it's far past the time that this town should stop just accepting 40B projects. Even if we're going to lose the fight, I think it's necessary to have the fight because we need to stand up for ourselves and for our community and what our residents want. So that has been and will continue to be what I advocate for. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes, it's important to note that if the zoning board of appeals was to vote this down, it would go to land court, and the petitioner would be able to appeal his case there. And as a result of that, it could be overruled by this judge. It could be remanded back to the town of Plymouth. But those are the, as the fellow board members have indicated, what you really need to do as a community and as a neighborhood is attend these meetings in the numbers that you have been to voice those concerns about traffic in pedestrian and vehicle traffic, in the safety concerns that many of us have noted. But you have to realize that this 40B legislation came from Beacon Hill nearly over 50 years ago. It hasn't really been modernized for the 21st century. We have to work to get state legislators, senators, and representatives to introduce bills that would improve it, to make it truly a vehicle for creating affordable housing and not an ability to exploit housing in a manner that doesn't take everyone into consideration. So 40B has to be modernized for the 21st century so that it does commit to creating actual affordable housing, and that only can happen on Beacon Hill. So obviously here you have a select board, you have town meeting members, but our jurisdiction stops at the borders of Plymouth, and we have to reach out to our state delegation to advocate for these changes on a larger level.
Hey, that continues with the January 5th, if you guys want to say it. I just got
Okay. So Ms. Edwards, the continuance, the specific date is January 5th. So that'll be the next time that Pulte will be before the ZBA.
January 5th, ZBA.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak on infrastructure or planning?
I'd actually like to speak on.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, so I just wanted to follow up on the Pulte discussion. I think, as many of you know, I have extremely strong opinions about this project, and I completely agree with everything that my colleague, Mr. Canty, has said about this particular project. I think what really concerns me the most, if this project does go forward, is the mess that the town is going to be left with in terms of fixing the infrastructure or addressing all of the mitigation that the developer is refusing to address. Someone brought up the sidewalks on Hedge Road. There's no offer to help with those. There's no offer to address some of the water supply issues, the parking, the traffic issues that we'll all be left with. So those are things that concern me now. So I do realize that we have very little say in this. We have very little rights under the law. The law is not really on our side when it comes to fighting the 40B legislations and the developments that are left behind because of it. But we do have the right to insist that this project receive the highest level of scrutiny. And I believe that that's what we are doing by showing up at the ZBA meetings and calling them, holding them to task, asking the hard questions, and I think that we really need to continue to do that. And I, for one, know that I will be at the next ZBA meeting and every meeting thereafter in order to do that and to continue to advocate for the community and against this development.
All right. Ms. Allen?
I think there is still a Conservation Committee meeting about Pulte, and that's December 15th. And I think there's a lot of conservation issues, so people should attend that too. Thank you.
That conservation meeting is December 16th for those folks.
All right. Those are three comments on infrastructure and planning. Is there anyone who would like to speak on another topic?
Hello. Am I at the right? Okay. So my statement relates to how.
Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Yes. My name is Ann Franzino. I'm a resident of Plymouth and a member of Together We Can. And my statement relates to how things are relating to our immigration community. So my church welcome card reads, "Live your values aloud, not alone." I thought how the town of Plymouth has largely remained silent on ICE immigration raids. Concerns had been requested to be discussed on your agenda several times, but had been delayed. Thank you all for now placing this on the agenda in the very near future. The impact on our immigrant community is profound. ICE has targeted longtime resident immigrant families, particularly in North Plymouth. We are witnessing trauma caused by unprecedented violent enforcement aimed at non-criminal, hard-working people. David Souza, the young man torn out of his vehicle in front of Hedge School, his car left abandoned in the street before school children, is the cousin of my friend. His family is devastated. He lost his appeal and deportation was ordered. He remains in custody. ICE lost his passport, and Brazil will not take him back without. His case is not isolated. Such experiences are spreading fear throughout our immigrant families. I hope you will show leadership and provide guidance to ensure our town upholds the rule of law and protects constitutional rights. Our neighbors need clarity and reassurance that their town will not ignore their fear. Bringing in town officials, police, and the sheriff to explain how we can protect residents from masked, unidentified agents would be an important first step. I know you cannot stop ICE, but you can provide supportive resources for families regarding their rights to due process. So many do not know what protections they do have. They deserve access to that information. We need guidance for frightened students who have witnessed arrests and fear their own families could be next. No one should fear a loved one disappearing without due process and not receive basic information on their whereabouts. Please take a stand so that everyone in Plymouth can count on our town ensuring safety for all. Immigrant residents are our neighbors, part of the fabric of Plymouth. We need a town-wide discussion about where we stand. We must live our values. We need input from all our community members, including the immigrant families who are most directly affected and too often unheard. Help us achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Excuse me. I'll let you know that, so Ann, I think you already know this, but for the benefit of the remainder of the attendees here and the folks watching at home, on January 6th, we're going to take up a discussion on ICE. We're going to have two topics on the agenda regarding ICE operations here in town. The first is going to be a presentation or an update from the Plymouth Police Department regarding communication that they've gotten from ICE regarding their operations. And the second will be a proposed policy that Mr. Canty is taking the lead on. So he's going to draft something up and present it to the board. And I'm sure Mr. Canty would like to respond, so I'll turn things over to him as well.
So thank you for your comments. I am very concerned about the manner and means with which ICE is conducting its activity. Obviously, as you stated, and as we've stated before, whether we'd like it to or not, we have no ability to control whether ICE can enforce federal immigration law within the boundaries of Plymouth. But the manner and means in which they go about it, in my opinion, is significantly undermining public safety in this community, causing fear and disruption, and is designed as an intimidation tactic to encourage people to self-deport or not come here in the first place. It is the kind of brazen conduct that if we say nothing, then that silence speaks volumes, because I think that history has demonstrated that while it is easy to ostracize a group and to leave them out of the conversation and treat them as lesser, it never stops there. And that if you don't stand up for the weakest people in your society, then you don't really stand up for anyone, because it's very easy to start dehumanizing categories of human beings. I think it is imperative that as a country, we do better than that. And I think that as a core component of the fabric of this nation, Plymouth has a duty not just to our citizens and our residents, but to residents of other communities with less renown, to be a beacon in standing up for our residents. We do not have the authority, as I said, to prevent ICE conduct within our borders. But our priority is to encourage public safety within our community for all members. And if we allow a group to be dehumanized, ostracized, put to the side, then we are creating a second class of citizen in our community. We are inviting individuals who would prey upon that second class of citizen, undermine the rule of law more broadly. We are setting ourselves up for a very dark path. This is a bigger problem than Plymouth can solve in and of itself, but we can be part of that solution. And we should be part of that solution, and we should take a stand. And I will be advocating that we do that, and I hope that my colleagues will support me. I certainly hope that members of this community will as well. Thank you.
Would any other board members like to respond? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes. Thank you for that, Mr. Candy. I could not agree more. I think that we have a responsibility to be sure that everyone in this community, regardless of immigration status, is treated with dignity and respect. And I think that's what this conversation is really all about, treating people with dignity and respect. And I know I, for one, am tremendously grateful for the work that organizations like Together We Can, Plymouth for All, and all of the different church groups and community groups are doing to help our neighbors, our immigrant neighbors, to feel like they are respected, that they do have a sense of dignity, to help give them the information they need, the support they need, and to help them feel safe in their own homes. This is an issue that's not just affecting one group of people. It affects the entire town. It's affecting our schools. It's affecting our workplaces. It's affecting all of us, because we know that there are people living in fear, and it's just that fear of the unknown that I think is just such a terrible way to live. But we do have angels among us who are working really, really hard on behalf of these citizens, and I'm very grateful for their help and support.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes, I think that where we are tonight is a culmination of coordination and working together with board members in the community to outline how that meeting will take place and how we will have that discussion, and have that discussion based on the elements that we have to understand when looking at the jurisdiction of the town of Plymouth and the federal and the state and the county organizations that operate in our community. We had to do our due diligence. It may have taken a little bit of time. Myself and others had been calling for this discussion for some time, but we quickly realized if we were going to have a legitimate conversation that was going to be substantive in nature, and at the end of the meeting have some ability to move forward and know that we have that ability, it was going to take some coordination with those resources. I'd like to commend the chair, David and Kevin, for reaching out to the DA's office and the other board members and staff that supported moving this to an agenda item, but doing it in a way that we can have a strong conversation and results following. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? All right. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak on the ICE issue? I saw his hand first, but I'll come to you next.
Good evening. My name's Tim Shawbrook. I'm a lifelong resident of Plymouth. I'm a first-generation American born of immigrant parents, a 26-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and I was a federal manager for 22 years. So all in total, I have 45 years service to this republic. As a federal manager, I work with Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol, United States Marshal Service, and Immigration Customs Enforcement. I found these people to be dedicated professionals, sworn to uphold the laws of the republic. Many people don't know this, but ICE is at the forefront of battling child sex slavery. And unfortunately, I know that most people don't think about that. The proponents who are coming before you are clouding the issue. You're talking about using the term immigrants, citizens. As a son of an immigrant, I can tell you there's no such thing as an undocumented immigrant. My parents spent 4 years having to go getting vetted, applying, waiting for their chance to immigrate to this country. So the issue we're talking about is illegal aliens. And they say illegal aliens don't break our laws. Usually that's because they only refer to state and local laws. Many do. But all of them break federal law, either for visa overstays, illegally crossing the border, dangerously I might add, not registering with the federal government, which is required by law. Most are involved with identity theft because they need it for working purposes. And most of all, they defy federal judges' orders to deport. In the last administration, over 10 million illegal aliens were released into this country with an order to report to a court for their hearing. 98% of them did not show up. And of those that did show up, 90% of them lost their case because they found their reasons were invalid. Upon either not showing up for court or finding that you don't have valid reasons to be in this country, a federal judge orders them deported. And that person has 30 days to deport. Why is ICE coming to this town? They're enforcing a federal judge's order. That's why they're here. And I have to ask the board, when we started this meeting, we pledged allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. It's incumbent upon us as citizens of this republic to uphold and support the laws of the republic. This attempt at obstructing and impeding federal officers from enforcing the law or otherwise trying to nullify federal law is a disservice to that allegiance. This is the wrong form. If you don't like the immigration laws of this country, your argument is with Congress. Those ICE officers are dedicated, and it's detriment to this town for people to think that they're just coming in for no reason. They're coming in for the reason that these people have broken federal law, and they're enforcing a federal judge's order. And shame on this town if we are going to start seeking to nullify federal law.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
Nobody's intent is to nullify federal law, but when you enter into an intersection, pull someone from vehicle, and the car starts rolling around, we're breaking multiple laws. So we need to be paying attention to the local laws on top of everything else. But your point is duly noted, but I do want to know that we don't have the authority. We're having a discussion, and that is what we're pursuing at this point.
Mr. Canty?
So I agree with Mr. Cohen that we're not seeking to nullify federal law. We can't nullify federal law, even if we would like to. However, the town of Plymouth does not need to be complicit in the actions of this administration. Under federal law, we do not have to participate in the actions and activities of ICE. We cannot stop them, but we do not need to help them. We do not need to be a part of this issue that, particularly in this area of this community, is a particularly salient issue that is causing a lot of disruption to families, to people, to human beings who call Plymouth their home. I think it is a significant disservice to not only our community but to our country to start treating people that come here with nothing but the clothes on their back, seeking a better life for them and their families, like the enemy. I don't understand that. I've never looked at somebody with nothing and found them to be a threat. Maybe I'm just different, I don't know. But I think that those people, if we were to embrace them, to support them, and to allow them to work hard at the jobs that they get here, which so many of them do, they are such a backbone to the local economy and functioning of this community, you would find no more dedicated an American than somebody that spent all of that effort getting here, bringing their families here, as opposed to those that just had the privilege of being born in the right zip code. So to me, I think it is important to stand up for those that have less than I do and didn't have the fortune of the birth that I had. And if you disagree with that, you have the right to, because this is America. But I'm still going to stand up for what I believe in and for the people that I think deserve support, protection, and welcoming in this community, which includes them, and it also includes you. Thank you.
Do any other board members have anything they'd like to say?
Hi, good evening. My name's Lori Fitzpatrick, and I'm a resident of North Plymouth. I live on Standish Avenue. I work in this elementary school, Cold Spring, as an occupational therapist, and have worked in this capacity for the Plymouth Public Schools for 20 years. I work directly with immigrant children and families in this community. In addition, I'm the co-founder of the community mutual aid group called Together We Can, Community Action with Neighbors. We work directly with our immigrant neighbors and families in Plymouth and all over Plymouth County, providing assistance for rent, utilities, food, legal assistance. We connect families with community resources and help them navigate daily life. We take families to the grocery store and to the pediatrician's office. We teach English, and they teach us their language. TWC is an interfaith organization. Our church partners consist of the Church of the Pilgrimage, Christ Church, First Church Kingston, First Church Plymouth, and the Brazilian Baptist Church in North Plymouth. Together, we build bridges and real community and trust that only benefits us and makes Plymouth strong. I'm also the co-lead of the Plymouth Community Watch Group called Lucette. In serving in all these capacities, I've been a direct witness to the crippling fear and terror that is widely experienced by our immigrant neighbors. At the height of the surge in September, I had a third-grade Brazilian girl in this school say to me, "Mrs. F., thank you for keeping us safe." We have heard from our immigrant friends that when ICE is active in the community, they're hiding in their closets and under their beds. One woman reported to have slept under her bed, peeking out tightly closed shades at unidentified cars parked in front of their house, not able to leave or go to work, feeling trapped and afraid without protection. We followed local North Plymouth residents from their homes down Court Street into the highway so they could go and clean our houses and take care of our lawns to feed their families. They told us, "Can you please just follow me because I'm afraid of being stopped and taken away." We know of a North Plymouth student who was hospitalized at Pembroke Hospital during the surge after experiencing her best friend's mother ripped away from her family and sent to a brutal, closed facility in Texas. She was afraid of her own safety and her mother, not knowing what to expect when she arrived home from school at the end of the day. Eventually, she couldn't take the pressure and was admitted to the hospital and is intensive counseling, suffering from PTSD. We have seen a mass disenrollment at both Cold Spring and Hedge, for there exists a mass exodus back to Brazil, a country with crippling economy, poverty, and widespread educational disadvantage. I am here today speaking to you as a witness in the voice of this community, too afraid to speak for themselves. We have asked countless members of this community, the immigrant community, to speak. Just yesterday, somebody agreed, and she is not here. So we need to speak for them.
Mrs.
They're
Fitzpatrick,
hardworking.
You've exceeded your 3 minutes. I can give you an additional minute if you'd like.
Thank you. They're hardworking individuals and active, longstanding members of the Plymouth community that deserve to be heard. We urge you, as our elected leaders, to bring a voice to the voiceless and set limits on how ICE operates in our town. We need you to represent us, all of us. Immigration is the cornerstone of what makes Plymouth home town of America. We're a community that are a product of immigrants that fled to these shores of this great town, searching for freedom, liberty, justice. That is being destroyed and trampled on before our eyes, and you have the power to change that. And just to note that being an undocumented immigrant is not a felony, but a civil offense.
Thank you. Mr. Canty?
I appreciate your comments, Ms. Fitzpatrick. I've said a lot about my position on immigration in the community so far. For those that don't know, my first job was at McDonald's. I worked at the one that was at what was then the Independence Mall in the food court. I started as a crew member, worked up as a crew trainer, was eventually a manager at that, and then the location that opened up at what was the Exit 5 rest area. And during my employment there, I was there for 7 years, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of Brazilian immigrants, some documented, some undocumented. And what struck me the most beyond simply, well, two things. They were very kind and generous people that were very interested in learning things about me and about this country, and becoming involved in their community while they were here. The other thing that struck me was the jobs that a lot of them used to have when they were in Brazil. I worked with people that were working the grill in McDonald's that were pharmacists and nurses in Brazil, because they could make more money here doing that, and they were safer here. I worked with a former police officer who used to be a police officer in Rio de Janeiro, and we used to talk about how bad the favelas and slums in that area were, and just the suffering that a lot of human beings were suffering there. And he had what was considered to be a very good job, and he didn't want to stick around. I think that if you are suspicious or untrusting or otherwise unwelcoming to these people, I would encourage you to talk to more of them, because you will be surprised how much you have in common with someone that doesn't speak your language, that isn't from your hemisphere. They love their family just as much as you do. They want a better future just like you do. And they just want to find it here. And they think that we have it. Them being here is a compliment, not a threat. And I think we should take the compliment. Thank you.
Anyone else from the board? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes. Lori, thank you so much for putting faces and personalities behind this issue that we're discussing here tonight. I know that it is a controversial topic, and there are very strong opinions on both sides. When I had the opportunity to retire early a number of years ago, I was retired for about 30 minutes and then went back to school to become a public school teacher, and I taught English as a second language in Plymouth and in Hanover and then in Kingston. And I have to say that the immigrants that I met through that process are some of, to Mr. Canty's point, are some of the hardest working, kindest, most grateful people that I've ever met in my entire life. And they continue to be my friends. I've made a lot of friends through that process, and I continue to count them among my friends. I think that one of the hardest things for me was when I was working in Kingston last year, K through 2 program, Kingston Elementary School, right down the street from Baymont Motel, which housed a lot of immigrants. So most of my students were kindergartners, 5-year-olds who were living in that hotel. And they came to school with such joy and such hope, and and infiltrated the school with such, so much love. And now they're gone. This year they're just gone. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about them and worry about them and wonder what's happening with them. So I do think, I mean, I respect everybody's opinion on this issue because it's so loaded. Even I have members of my own family who I believe just as strongly as you do, sir, about, what the position that you have. So it's difficult to have those conversations with people, but I think at the bottom line of all of this is just treating people as human beings, thinking of them as human beings, thinking of them as families, children who are going to school, just trying to do everything that our families are trying to do, just survive and grow and thrive, and just be able to treat them with dignity and respect. And I think that that's at the heart of what all of these community groups are trying to do. No one is trying to block ICE. We're just trying to bring some dignity and respect to the process.
We're going to do something a little different here tonight. It seems, based on the applause, that there are many people in the room who are interested in speaking on this subject. If you could just please raise your hand if you intend to speak on this. There are quite a few. Are there anyone, can I just ask, who in the room is here to speak on a different topic? Sure. I'd like, if there's no objection, to continue on this topic so that folks can continue the discussion in a linear format. Is there any objection from the board?
No.
All right.
We just ask that you all save your comments to the end of public speaking. I don't think you need to hear 5 comments.
Your point is well taken, Mrs. Brewster. I think it would be fair if we reserved our comments till the end of, since we're changing things up anyways, let's reserve our comments until the end of the discussion on this issue. So I'll start with Mr. Brewster next.
Thank you. Wrestling Brewster, Vice Chair of the Committee of Precinct Chairs and Chairs of Precinct 16. Just for reference, not here on behalf of either of those entities. I'm here because I'm deeply concerned about the directions of our society is taking, specifically the trend of individualizing law enforcement. I'm talking about the fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters who wear the badge and take an oath to uphold our laws. When we isolate them, blame them personally for the laws that they enforce and place them in harm's way because we dislike those laws, we all lose sight of the bigger picture. We live in a world of unintended consequences. Our communities safely depend on cooperation, clarity, and respect, not division. When local and federal agencies are discouraged from working together, the consequences ripple outward and touch every family, every neighborhood, and every officer who serves. Let me be concrete. When our sheriff identifies an individual already flagged by federal authorities and alerts the appropriate agency, that pickup can happen safely and predictably, often at the jail or another controlled setting. But if cooperation is blocked or discouraged, federal agents must seek that person out in the community. That is when risk increases. Risk to officers, risk to bystanders, and yes, a risk to family members who may be nearby. This is a not theoretical concern. It's about the environment in which enforcement occurs and whether we make it safer or more dangerous for everyone involved. I often hear this person has built a family here and should be allowed to stay. I do not dismiss the human story behind the statement. Families matter. Children matter deeply. But as parents, we teach our children that rules and laws exist for a reason, that we must respect them, even if they're inconvenient or imperfect. Scripture reminds us this principle, Romans 13, let everyone be subject to the government authorities, for there is no authority except which God has established. The authority exists have been established by God. Consequently, whoever rebels against authority is rebelling against God has instituted, and those who do not well bring the judgment on themselves. What message do we send if the first act in this country is to break its laws, whether by entering without authorization or ignoring a lawful order? We can be compassionate and still uphold the rule of law. Those two commitments are not mutually exclusive. They are essential halves of a responsible society. We must keep sight of those local officers, who they are, They are our neighbors. They attend the same school and churches. They coach our kids and volunteer in our community. They are trained to enforce laws passed by local officials, not elected officials, sorry. Not to write those laws and not to interpret the laws according to personal preference. So I offer 3 principles we can stand behind. Do not condemn individual law enforcement officers for doing their jobs. Criticize policies if you must. Debate statutes and ordinance passionately, but do not target the people tasked with implementing them.
Mr. Brewster, you've exceeded your 3 minutes. I'll give you an additional minute if that works for you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Do not create division that makes their work more dangerous. Demand that our elected officials and leaders, state and federal, do their job and fix immigration. Fight for our citizens and legal immigrants who shoulder economic burdens when systems are strained. Schools, hospitals, social services, and law enforcement they remain focused, funded, and capable of serving the people. We need to make sure that we don't burden the taxpayer with all of the situation that we have. Let me be clear, advocating for cooperation in law enforcement is not a call to abandon compassion. It is a call to unify compassion with accountability. We cannot support lawful processes that allow families to pursue authorized avenues. We can ask our leaders to clear backlogs, streamline legal routes, and reduce uncertainty so enforcement happens less in neighborhoods. This is not about party lines. Is it about demonstrating individuals, demonizing individuals? It's not about safety, fairness. It's about safety, fairness, and responsibility. It's about acknowledging unintended consequences and making better choices that protect our neighbors, the ones with badge and the ones without. Let's stand together as a community that supports our officers, seeks humane outcomes, and demands that our lawmakers do hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brewster. I'm going to ask that folks who are interested in speaking on this just come on up. You can queue right here down the middle of the 2 sections. Mr. Tavares, you're up next, and then feel free to form a line behind him. Yes, it is.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on to the next speaker, this isn't pertaining to the next speaker. I just wanted to.
I'm gonna ask that we hold comments until.
I'm not commenting on anything that was said in the audience, but I do believe that these meetings are an opportunity to hear from residents, and if a board member feels passionate enough to say something, be sensitive with your time. The priority is to hear from the audience, but I don't want this to be kind of a public comment where people are just talking to us and we're not responding. I don't want a board member to feel that they're not free to express themselves. But be sensitive with your time. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tavares?
Am I close enough? If I get close enough, I'm going to be on my knees here. Matt Tavares, Precinct 2. As Mr. Brewster did, I will do as well. I'm also I'm the chair of the Committee of Precinct Chairs and the chair of Precinct 2. As he said, I'm not speaking in that capacity, but I do feel as if you're an elected official, even though we're a bipartisan community, once you are elected to office, you are a holder of that office, no matter what time of day you walk down the street. That being said, I want to focus on something that I've heard, I think, almost the majority of the board speak to, and including, I think, maybe even the chair, that this isn't about changing federal law. Which is something that we all know what the outcome would be there. This is talking to compassion and working with, finding a middle ground between federal government and the local government. And I just want to focus on one thing, which is my last name, Tavares. So proud North Plymouth family, immigrant family, worked in Cordage Park, worked at the Cordage Company for years and years and years. Cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, great-grandparents. But the other part of that name comes from the Mayflower. And that side, my mother's side, came to this country, and they came as illegal immigrants. In fact, landing not where they intended. And that side goes back to Brewster. as well as Bradford. So what I'd like to say is, those people that were here within this community, we just celebrated a few weeks ago how they helped with compassion. And that's what is truly at the heart of Plymouth, is that we have compassion for all, not impeding. I've heard that a little too much this evening. No one here on the select board, from the majority that I heard that's working on this, has said anything about impeding. What they have said is helping in the fact that we need to be compassionate. And if we don't find that compassion, which started this community, we are destined for failure. And it will happen quicker than you can think. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tavares.
Good evening. My name's Leo Martin. I live in the Chiltonville section of Plymouth, and I'm proud to do so. I also dabble in the history of Plymouth a little bit, where I run a organization in Plymouth that talks about the history of our country. And it's such a great story. And what we just heard about the Pilgrims coming here as illegal immigrants, bit of a stretch. But what they did is when they came here is they found they were in a communal existence where everybody worked in the same field, grew their food, and then they evenly split with each other what they produced, which everybody felt was great, except it didn't work. You see, what happens in that kind of a situation is you lose your incentive to work, and the Pilgrims did. So what happened is William Bradford, the other illegal immigrant, William Bradford changed the rules. He said every family's going to work for themselves, build their own land, and then trade with each other what they had left over. And by the way, that worked. They tripled their production and never had a starving day after that. In the first year, half the people starved to death. So the issue, I think, what we're looking at here is we have choices, and choices have consequences. And you can choose. Someone mentioned we're all neighbors. Okay, we're all neighbors, but who chooses the neighbor? And if we're going to choose one neighbor against another, then we're going to have conflict. And what we're doing in our country, our state, and our town is choosing one group, one neighbor over another. See, if you're going to give illegal aliens free things, and the budget in Massachusetts last year was over $600 million for doing this, then someone's got to pay for it. And those who pay for it are the citizens that have been here since the Pilgrims, like Wesley. And once you do that, now you're going to put a conflict together. And what we need to do is take that conflict away and don't burden the people who are natural citizens with having to pay for people who are not, but let them earn their own money, stop taking their money in taxes, let them earn their own money, and then they will most likely, like the Pilgrims, be willing to help their neighbors voluntarily. But once you start telling people what to do with their money, you're going to have a problem. And we can remove that problem if we can, in a civilized way, decide that maybe naturalized citizens came first, and if we can keep them solvent, then we can take care of the people coming in. But if we do not do that, then the whole system breaks down and we lose everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Hi, my name is Megan Ash. I live in South Plymouth. Sorry. My name is Megan Ash. I live in South Plymouth. I'm here to respond to the two gentlemen that previously spoke to legality and everything. I stand here today to speak clearly and without hesitation. The harm caused by ICE is not theoretical, not distant, and not invisible. We have seen repeated patterns of misconduct. Families torn apart without due process, intimidation of community members, and actions that violate both the spirit and the letter of basic human rights. These are not isolated incidents. They form a documented pattern of abusive and unlawful behavior that no society can just ignore. And let me be equally clear. We do not all subscribe to the same scripture, the same ideology, or the same narrow definition of authority. In a diverse society, no institution gets to impose rules that endanger lives or strip people of dignity. Unjust policies are not made legitimate simply by being written down. Cruelty does not become acceptable just because an agency carries a badge. We are not blind. We see what is happening and we refuse to accept a system that treats human beings as disposable. Our community deserves safety, not from families seeking stability, but from unchecked power that harms them. We as a community can determine our rules, and we don't have to go against federal law to do so. We can protect our citizens and follow proper rules. Our community deserves safety and from unchecked power that harms our families, and we can and must demand better. And thank you for all that you do, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joanne Oscar, and I've been a resident of Plymouth for 20 years. I work as a local veterinarian, and I'm putting my 2 children through the Plymouth Public Schools. I'm a leader of Indivisible Plymouth, and I'm active in social justice and town politics. Our organization is instrumental in helping elected officials of our town get elected. We have a wide base of followers, thousands within the town, and consider ourselves influential in impacting town politics and social culture. I'm also an active member of the Plymouth Community Watch Group, Luce, and the mutual aid group, Together We Can. I'm here to speak about the mental health of our children. We met with Kristen Wilson, the principal of Hedge Elementary School, to get a pulse on the school community in mid-September. She revealed to us that immigrant families are frightened and many are fleeing back to Brazil, back to a country where most of our immigrant children do not call home. The United States is their home, and in most cases, is the only home they've ever known. Kristen told us that on that particular day, there were 26 immigrant children absent from school, with attendance at an all-time low. Parents have reported being afraid to walk their kids to school for fear of being ripped away, or worse yet, having their children ripped away from them. I then reached out to the Plymouth Superintendent's office to ask about overall school attendance, and what I discovered was staggering. I do have copies for all of you, but basically, Plymouth Public School has a total of 369 English language students, and 153 have had a decline in attendance since last year. We know that from the September 23rd ice snatching, children were terrorized on the bus, watching the entire scene unfold. By the time they arrived at school, they had to be calmed down by the principal, and many called their parents to make sure they were safe. Later that week, there were reports of students hiding in the principal's office and in the small room for fear that ICE had entered the building or were on school grounds. This day was later. They were calling it Freaky Friday, and a day where rumors were spreading that children were being whipped away from their families. As we know, and as Lori spoke prior, there are children with PTSD and in intensive therapy, even hospitalized from the terror and anxiety they're experiencing. ICE is wreaking havoc on the health and well-being of our children, and they must be given boundaries. And we're looking to you.
Joanne, can you get closer to the microphone, please?
We're looking for you to help set those boundaries. As our elected officials, it's your responsibility to help protect the most vulnerable, our children.
Thank you. Ms. Tompkins?
Good job, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.
Good evening. Emily Tompkins, Precinct 14, and lifelong Plymouth resident who grew up in the downtown area, and I went to this school, Cold Spring Elementary. I'd like to talk about how ICE activity is impacting the community as a whole, not just the immigrant population. So my mom was the bus driver on the September 23rd incident near Hedge School. She recounted the details a few days later with me and spoke about how all the kids on the bus were scared during and after the incident. To these kids, it's hard to tell the difference between ICE and the actual police. ICE is creating undue fear of the police in these kids by allowing ICE to continue to act in these aggressive ways against our residents. Additionally, the car was abandoned in the middle of the road in a school zone, causing traffic backup during the busy commuter hours of the day. The police had to come retrieve the abandoned car. But back to my main point, ICE's way of operating creates fear among children and adults alike, and that has economic impacts. We've heard that immigrant workers are not going to work out of fear they may be detained. These employees are important to our workforce, and our economy depends on them. They're working at local restaurants, grocery stores, construction projects, hotels, landscaping, and so many more jobs. If they're fearful to go to work, the businesses can't operate at their best, and it slows down operations. It not only hurts the businesses, but it hurts the customers who are relying on their work and our local economy more broadly. While I personally hate to have to make this argument focused on money and economics, because I see these people as human no matter their economic output, it's important we think about impacts from many lenses. Simply put, fear is bad for business. The conduct of ICE in Plymouth is having a negative impact on public safety and our local economy. The goal of law enforcement at all levels should be to make people feel safer, whereas the unprofessional conduct of ICE is making all residents, citizens and immigrants alike, feel less safe. In times like these, we need leaders who are willing to stand up for their people. I'm proud to use my privilege and voice to stand up for all those in our community. I appreciate this board taking up this topic at this meeting and a more formal meeting in January. And to Matt Tavares' point, if your ancestors came over on the Mayflower, you are indeed a descendant of immigrants who were welcomed by those who resided here first. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tompkins.
Hello. My name is Kristen Thomas, Precinct 3. I was born and have lived most of my life here in Plymouth. I'm co-founder of Together We Can, a mutual aid organization servicing Plymouth families, and co-lead of the Plymouth Lucé Community Watch. I've never seen such fear instilled,
Thank you.
I've never seen such fear instilled in our community as there is now due to the dangerous tactics of federal immigration enforcement, and it's hitting everyone, specifically people that come from diverse backgrounds. Last Thursday, my daughter texted and informed me that her boyfriend, Zay, was chased by what appeared to be ICE. Our community watch team knows the vehicle as well. Many have cages installed in the back and dark tinted windows. Many of us have been followed and targeted. Zay, a lifelong Plymouth resident with 2 military veteran parents, is here to tell his story.
I was driving down Chilton Street, about to take a right onto Water Street, and I noticed there's a big white Wagoneer or a Cherokee parked in the first parking spot to the left near Ziggy's in front of the pole that says Chilton Street. As I'm inching forward, I noticed that he's telling me to go, and I was wondering why. I also noticed a big cage in the back, so I keep inching out, and I pull out in front, and I start driving. I noticed he was right behind me, so I kept driving as if it was normal traffic until I realized that he was a lot closer to me than regular, as if he was riding my bumper. So I sped up a little bit, and I went over the stone path near the Plymouth Rock, and at this point, I was a little bit more nervous, so when I got to Town Brook, I put my right blinker on to see if he would turn his on, and he did. So I quickly took a left onto Union Street, and then I saw him turn down Union as well. I drove up the street, and there was a big red Denali truck on the left side of the road, and there were cars parked on the right side of the road, and I knew I could fit, but he couldn't. So if he was really following me, he would get stuck at that one point, and I knew I could make it through. So I went past the truck, and I took a right onto Lincoln Street. And when I was about halfway up the street, I noticed in my rearview mirror that he took the corner pretty fast as if he was trying to catch up to me. So I got to the stop sign, and he was kind of far away from me, so I quickly took a right onto Sandwich Street. My house is right around the corner. I was able to quickly pull into my driveway before he turned onto Sandwich Street and waited there, and I watched him fly past my house.
Racial injustices occur around here much more than people may realize, but being targeted by ICE is not something to brush off. We don't know what would have happened if he was stopped, but we do know we need the town to stand against these injustices and stand with us.
Thank you.
All right, Meredith Basewitz, Precinct 1. I apologize because I am scared when I speak, and I do have a facial nerve problem. But anyway, it's important to tell these stories, so here goes. I'd like to talk briefly about the impact ICE has had on Plymouth residents, including myself. Shortly after, ICE abducted a man, David Souza, and left his car in the middle of the Cherry Street, Standish Ave intersection. I, too, was chased by 2 vehicles who I can only assume were ICE. Upon arriving home at Cordage Park, 2 lights over from where the other man's car was left, I immediately heard someone yell an aggressive, I can't do it, but, "Hey, you!" and he began tailing me. There were 2 cars total, and one immediately went to go block the main exit from Cordage Park onto Court Street. His car was so far out into the intersection that he would have blocked folks not only from leaving, but from traveling safely on Court Street. The other car began tailing me, like say, so closely that I could only see his windshield in my rearview mirror. He chased me for a long time, but thankfully he was a bad driver, and it was clear he didn't know the parking lot very well, and I was able to put a few milliseconds or seconds between us at every turn until eventually I had enough time to run into my building. He then proceeded to block the other exit near Untold Brewing. Both men then got out of their cars, leaving them in traffic with no lights or sirens on. No lights or sirens had ever come on, and spoke at length on the curb. After that, the black sedan cruised around Cordage Park some more, clearly looking for me. ICE has been known to frequent Cordage Park, and their militant presence there, especially in the wee hours of the night, has left residents, including myself, feeling intimidated. In addition to my own experience with being chased, other concerning events have taken place at Cordage Park. On the industrial side, again in the pre-dawn hours, a sheriff's van was spotted hiding amongst the bushes with ICE agents gathered nearby. The van was of the type used to transport detainees. This begs the question, why exactly did the sheriff need to collaborate with ICE, or God forbid exchange detainees so secretly? Why gather under the cover of darkness, hiding behind bushes, when the legitimacy of law enforcement is derived in part from its transparency? Again, all Plymouth residents deserve to return to their homes peacefully. All Cordage Park residents deserve the right to leave Cordage Park without the roads being blocked by unmarked vehicles with nobody in them. As many of us know, ICE is here to create shock, awe, and fear, rather than to perform true law enforcement activities. To that extent, I answer my account into the public record and wish to make it clear to ICE, you are not welcome here. I also heard somebody today use the buzzword of child sex slavery. I wasn't planning on speaking to this, but I myself receive services through Plymouth County's DA's office they have a task force on human trafficking. I don't think anybody that spoke today knows a thing about human trafficking, and if you don't like to hear gory details, cover your ears now. So I was transported by white van from Connecticut to Idaho, and I was unable to speak to anyone for over 3 years. So trafficking, child sex slavery. Upon arrival at a warehouse in Idaho, I was quickly searched by 2 men who, and again, this is gory, who cavity searched me by putting a finger up my vagina and then my anus, and they had gloves on, and then without changing them, they swiped my mouth. They then did this to another person without changing gloves. This was how we were treated on a day-to-day basis. I was starved down to a BMI of 14.1. According to their records, I was hypothermic for several months. So I asked law enforcement to consider our opinions, and none of us are considering that law enforcement might be doing the right thing. In fact, when I called the police, my treatment plan, in fact, I should say this, had been, Meredith will become comfortable being a girl and dating men. I am gay, but I've always been a girl, so that was stupid. But they asked me, law enforcement asked me, Meredith, what's one good thing that you got out of this program? Law enforcement is not here to help us. Nobody feels that way, and I've spoken to thousands of survivors of what you want to call child sex slavery as a buzzword to get your way in dehumanizing other people. I think I know more about this topic than probably anybody in the room in both an academic and personal setting. I urge everybody to use the maximum human dignity in considering our experiences and not to make a show of it, but to imagine how they would feel. If you don't like that, I mean, I'm happy to drag you out of your home too, honestly, but that's illegal. So I like to follow the law too. I ask the select board to treat us all with dignity. I know that it does, and I beg that of the public as well. Thank you for your time, and I'm mad that I had to share that.
Thank you.
I'm Louis Postel. Am I close enough to this? Okay, so I really appreciated your comments, Mr. Canty and Ms. Yaquinto and others. I think you get it. I mean, I don't think we need to explain what's going on. The terror, I mean, you know, I just talked to a friend, such a wonderful woman, lives in North Plymouth, works crazy hours. No one knows how she does it with such cheer and good. And I said, well, you know, has ice affected you? She said, yeah, no, I don't go out of my house except to come to you to work. That's it. I said, well, what about medical? No. To me, that's crazy because it's going to hurt us in the end. She's going to end up in the emergency ward. But one thing the previous speaker mentioned was that he saw the police in Cottage Park. And from what I know, we don't know if they're police. They could be kidnappers. They could be garden variety kidnappers. And if they're throwing a woman to the ground and throwing her in an unmarked car, what are we supposed to do? I mean, do we call the police? I mean, this is something I'm throwing back at you. I don't have an answer, but I think as a human being, I would do something. I mean, we have 2 adopted children. It never occurred to me when my wife said, well, let's get, you know, the little one to come from Boston and see us for Thanksgiving. And this thing just rippled across my brain. And I thought, she's not white. I don't know. Maybe not. And to have that kind of chill in the air is just a terrible thing for all of us. So I hope we can find a way to, one, our police, one, to identify whether someone's actually ICE or not, and 2, to make very clear that they're not cooperating with ICE in any way, because the long-term consequences of that trust being broken with the community is going to be terrible. This could last 20 years, where no one from certain people in the community ever call the police for any reason. They'd rather put up with it. So anyway, thanks so much for listening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm a Plymouth resident. I go to Plymouth North High School. My name is Leonardo de Almeida. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I heard something that kind of turned my gears a little bit. I heard something about theology and religion and how it defends mass deportation, especially in Plymouth, Massachusetts.
Could you get closer to the microphone, please?
Yeah, sorry. I don't believe that to be true, and I don't believe that to be a beneficial defense to it, because someone brought up a point about authority and how everyone should obey the law, and how God said that everyone should obey the law. I study religion in my free time a lot. I don't believe that to be true. There are many scriptures to counter that, like love one another as I have loved you, love your enemies and not do good. I don't think that should be a defense, and I think that mass deportation is just not like something to be defended on. And I'm not saying this to any of you, I'm just talking to the audience, and I appreciate you guys' comments, but I don't know how people can defend it, honestly. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Pat Adelman, Precinct 12. I'm also a precinct chair. And I would just ask you at your January meeting if you would invite the Plymouth County Sheriff and ask him what's going on in the prison and how there's unequal treatment of the detainees as compared to the other prison population. Thank you.
Thank you.
Belinda Brewster, Precinct 15, I think this go around anyway. Sure, sorry. And I know that this particular issue is controversial here in town. I would say to Mr. Canty, nobody is dehumanizing people here.
Hold on, folks.
We're questioning.
She respected you guys when you spoke. I'm going to ask that you respect her. Please, no reactions from the audience. Thank you.
We're questioning the legality of their reason for being here, which again, they crossed the border illegally. Yes, they may have been here for a while, but they're still illegal. And that has nothing to do with dehumanizing. That is their legal status in this country. And it's great that we have all of these organizations that are willing to help them and whatever. It doesn't change their legal status. And also, too, the New York Times just the other day, not a right-wing newspaper at all, said that due to Joe Biden's opening of the border and allowing over 10 million illegals to cross the border in, it is creating chaos. And I think that's what we're seeing in our own community, and I think in almost every community. And we have to come to a resolution about it. And I would also say that Harvard-Harris poll in October of this year, 80% of Americans want all violent criminals, criminal illegal aliens, deported. We don't talk about the ICE folks who have come in here and have rid the streets of Plymouth of criminal illegal aliens, those who are committing murders, rapes, sexual trafficking, and the like. That makes me feel safer, knowing that those criminals are off the streets. Again, the New York Times article said that because of this, we've lost faith in our immigration. And I think that's what it is. How do you tell who is the criminal, violent drug dealers that have all come into our country from the everyday folks? You can't really. And I think that, I hope that the town of Plymouth will, the law enforcement and the sheriff's department will start cooperating with ICE. I think that will make our streets safer. People live in fear. I've heard that over and over again. Why do they live in fear? Because they're here illegally. My parents came to this country. My dad worked at the Cordage Company. You know, I went to Hedge School. I never once had a day of fear because my parents came here legally. No, it's not because you're white.
Folks, again, please, in the audience, please respect her time.
It's always, let's play the race card. But it's the status. It's their citizen status. Oh, and the other thing on that Harris poll, 56% of Americans want all immigrants, illegal immigrants, deported. And why is that? Because of the chaos that was caused over the past 4 years of allowing anybody to come in unvetted in the middle of a pandemic and not even tested for COVID to come into our country. So the American people are fed up with it. And that's why the border is closed today. And I'm sorry, Democrats, that's why Donald Trump is president today, is because this was his issue. And it resonated. And apparently the 20% of people who don't want to see people deported live right here in Plymouth.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for acknowledging me. My name is Christine Pratt, and I am a Precinct 1 town meeting member. And you can tell by the number of speakers tonight that that ICE is a very passionate topic, specifically in North Plymouth. We have a lot of non-English speaking people who work very hard for our community every day. I want to start by saying that I think we need to appreciate both opinions, both sides of this issue. And I have respect for the Brewsters. I think our relatives, our ancestors came over on the same ship. The bottom line is this community is looking for your guidance and for you to establish a policy and a position. And unfortunately, being our executive branch of government, you know what, you're not going to please everybody. So somehow one side of this issue is not going to be happy with your position. But North Plymouth is asking you to stand by our citizens and to stand by our neighbors because they deserve it. And whether it's, you know, the opinion of whether you're dehumanizing somebody or not, the bottom line is everybody deserves compassion, everybody deserves respect, and I, as a leader in this community, would expect your position to always fight for that, for every single child, every single parent that is working hard every day in our North Plymouth community, our neighborhood, and in our town. So with that, that's my topic on ice. I just have two questions.
I'm going to just, real quick, Ms. Pratt, I will
Sure.
recognize you on another topic
sure.
in a moment. But is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak on the ICE topic? Please come up, Mr. Leary. And then Jade, I'm going to ask if there's anyone online as well.
Kevin Leary again. I'm going to go at this a different way. I've lived in North Plymouth for almost 50 years, and probably about 30 years ago, a lot of people looked down on North Plymouth. North Plymouth had its problems. North Plymouth is predominantly, I shouldn't say predominantly, but it seems that way, a lot of rental property. So people move in from all over the place and grab apartments. So you've got a wide mix of people here. So a group of my friends decided to start a neighborhood watch group. So we had a couple meetings and we had them out at the head school, and we had it in a classroom and it overflowed the classroom. There was a ton of people there and there was screaming and hollering going on. There's nothing you can do. You're not going to get rid of these people, blah, blah, blah. So after about 3 or 4 meetings, the group got whittled down to about 15 people. And what we did is we started working with the police, and the police were great. I mean, they taught the group how to, the biggest problem was drug houses. So they worked with the group and told us how to identify that, how to record the people that were involved and whatnot. And within probably about 3 or 4 years, the drug dealers were gone. People would say, I can go out and walk my dog now. I don't feel bad taking a walk around the block. It changed it tremendously. The same people that are there today were there then. A lot of them are immigrants because it's rental property and that's where they come to. There is nothing wrong with those people that still live there. The biggest problem we had was drug dealers that were coming in from other areas, and then of course people that would come to buy. They might have lived on the next street, might have lived in the next town, wherever they came from. Once we got rid of them, North Plymouth straightened right out. The point of the matter is, there was still a ton of immigrants around that. And that would probably got squared away 15 to 20 years ago. And it's not a bad place to live. I don't care if you speak English or not. So, just another perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leary.
Hi, my name is Pamela Brooks, and I'm a resident of Plymouth. I'm also a retired librarian, so please excuse me at this point if I correct a few facts that were, a few numbers that were given here tonight. According to ICE's own statistics, 73.6 people, current detainees, have no criminal convictions. So we're looking at an ICE detention center population of 24% criminal convictions, and the other 74% have no criminal conviction. The other thing I just wanted to address is when you refer to human beings as illegal aliens, you immediately dehumanize those people.
Folks, please keep your reaction so that folks can get through their 3 minutes. You can certainly applaud after they've spoken, but as I did with Ms. Brewster, I'll give you some additional time because of the crowd's interruption.
Thank you. And lastly, I want to say, as a white woman of a certain age and a certain demographic, I feel less safe when I see an ICE officer with a mask on than I do when I see an immigrant neighbor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak on this subject? Is there anyone online? No. Excellent, thank you. Well, I appreciate everyone's feedback on this. I think one of the benefits of these on the roads has been hearing from folks in their community, and obviously this has impacted the North Plymouth community in a special way. I'm going to open things back up to the board. I will say, I forget who it was who asked earlier about what you should do if you see something you think is a kidnapping. If you ever see any activity that you might suspect is illegal, you should contact the Plymouth Police Department. With that, I will open it back up to the board. Mr. Canty?
I appreciate the feedback of the community on both sides of the issue. I clearly agree with one side. But some of the criticism that I have received from some that disagree with me on this issue in the past, I'd like to address, because I think you should consider why it's important to stand up for people like the immigrants in our community. Because it is very easy to find a group with less in common than you and justify treating them differently. It's happened repeatedly in life, in history. It's always led down a dark path. And I think we should stand against that. I think that when the first right is infringed, when the first privilege is taken away, when the first group is treated differently, we are all lessened by it. I think that, as I said earlier, how we treat the people with the least in our society, whether that be the least money, the least power, the least ties to the community, reflects on all of us. And that we should endeavor to be better. I have spent my professional career standing up for people that other people would like to treat differently. I have done that for over a decade now because I believe firmly that if the rights and privileges that we hold dear don't apply to everyone, very soon they won't apply to anyone. And you have to hold the line. And if you believe in something, you believe in it always. Today, we are in this room discussing the rights and privileges of immigrants in our community and whether they should be respected and treated the same as people that were born here or who moved here legally. I would point out that if you are facing persecution in your country, starvation, lack of employment opportunities, I think a lot of us would move somewhere else, whether we had the paperwork in order or not. I would point out, I'm German-Irish by heritage. The population of Ireland is still lower than it was prior to the potato famine because of how many people left, because of how bad it got. I think today we're sitting here, discussing the rights of these people. If we were discussing the rights of people in this community that were born here and lived here their whole lives and whether they should be treated equally with respect, I would stand up for them too, because I believe that these rights and privileges apply to all of us. We're just targeting a specific group in a way that I think is, to be most charitable, counterproductive, and not in our interest. We would, if we were to create a system in which our police officers were to cooperate with ICE and proactively turn people in, you would see a decline in our residents that are immigrants cooperating with the police. They would not report crimes that affected them. They would not stand up as a witness in a crime that they saw that happened to you. And I think that that is something that you should consider, because those impacts, they can take place over a long period of time. It can be slow to see that erosion of trust in a community and the degradation of the fabrics of that community and the institutions. But when they happen, they're very hard to ever repair. And the worse we treat them, the worse it will get for all of us. And I would encourage everyone to treat your fellow human beings like human beings, first and foremost, and worry less about paperwork and more about people. Thank you.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes. I just want to say how much courage it took for all of you to come here tonight, and regardless of how you feel about the issue, to come up and express your viewpoints. I think that we were all touched by the stories that we heard tonight. We heard from people that have been, innocent people that have been caught up in all of this, have been profiled, and have been made to feel less safe in our community, even though they are legal citizens of the community. So I do want to just take a moment to thank everybody for that. And I also want to say that I hope that this is just the beginning of the conversation. I know that we as a board will be back on January 6th, but there are many weeks between now and January 6th. I think if we can just continue to find ways to keep talking to each other so that we can understand each other better and get a better sense of where each side is coming from, because I know that, people have very valid reasons for why they believe what they believe, and we can't discount any of that. We need to respect that and factor that into the decisions we make going forward. I will say that as a board, I think that we should do everything that we can within our role, within the power that we have, which is limited compared to the federal government, but everything we can do in our power to keep this community safe for everybody who lives here. Thank you. Thank you all again very much for coming tonight.
Mr. Cohen?
I believe the comments made tonight and from the board and from the audience do point to the dilemma that we face, and we are limited in our control of the situation, but we do have control of the functionality of the town of Plymouth and the municipal responsibilities when it comes to safety. So I look forward to January 6th and having an opportunity that's structured around those parameters, because tonight people have spoken passionately on both sides, but in the end, as board members, myself, not speaking for the others, that my intention is to act in what I feel is in the best behalf of the safety of our residents, regardless of any other pending status of their citizenry of Plymouth.
Mr. Quintal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank everybody for their concerns on both sides of the issue. I think it's a lot larger than this board. I think whatever party you're in, let's face it, we've been failed as citizens in this country for a system that does not allow you to come in properly. That's the first problem. It starts way at the top. If you want people to come in legally, then you have to have a system. And I've been quiet till this point because there's probably nobody more familiar on this whole table than I with immigrants, aliens. My fiance is Brazilian. Okay, so I'm very aware of the whole thing of what's going on. We were told when this all started in Plymouth, I didn't write it down the date, a year ago, 2 years ago, when we were briefed as a board, and the police chief or his attendants were there and said they weren't going to get involved in civil matters. However, if it was a criminal matter, they had no choice, they would have to assist. However, that being said, I don't know if that's changed, but I'm eagerly awaiting the 6th of January when he comes in and sees what he says then. And I'm not saying that ICE, if you will, has performed by the book. That I can't tell you as I sit here. I've listened to your stories. I'm not saying they're not true, but I will say, you know, I took an oath of office as everybody else at this table to uphold the laws of the Commonwealth and the town of Plymouth. And we do have to abide by those laws. However, we do have to abide by those laws by the law. You can't just be doing things and, you know, there could be mistakes. I'm not a judge, neither is anybody else at this table. You know, my grandmother told us when we were kids, we're all God's children. I've said it many times, many places. But this isn't as easy as, you know, just saying, you know, we as a select board are gonna do this, because we have to follow the laws, at least I do. So I'm not saying I disagree with your feelings, but there's laws to be followed. I have 33 employees that work for me. They're Brazilian, they're Portuguese, Vietnamese. We got the melting pot going. We got everybody, and people have complimented me on that all my life. And we're all the same. You look at my flagpoles coming in my business, they're all different. We change them all the time. And why do we do that? Because we're all the same. But we do have to follow the laws. At least I do. And that's all I want to say. And I heard everything you said. And if somebody is a criminal, then they're going to be treated just like an American citizen criminal would be. Like when you get pulled over and you have a warrant, sometimes you get arrested because you skipped court or you didn't pay a ticket or whatever it might be. But, you know, we have to follow laws. And there should be some compassion. Everybody should be treated by the laws that we have. I mean, I wish I could sit here and tell you something different, but, you know, I'm just being honest about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I've spent a lot of time over the last several weeks engaging with a variety of my constituents on both sides of this issue. I'm going to reserve my comments for January 6th. I look forward to the proposal that Mr. Canty puts in front of us. But I just want to thank you all for being here tonight and for sharing your perspectives on the matter, because ultimately my allegiance is to you, the citizens of Plymouth. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to go back to Ms. Pratt, since I cut her off, and I promised her I would come back on her other topics. Come on up.
Again, Christine Pratt, Precinct 1. Pretty mundane after all the passion that has been expressed tonight. But through you, Chairman Golden, 2 questions for Mr. Brindisi, if you'd indulge me.
Please.
So, Mr. Brindisi, the first question is, of the 40 complaints, 186 stops, 172 citations, and 36 arrests, exactly what length of Court Street did that include? That's number one. So are we talking, you know, from the Kingston line all the way down to?
Sure.
So that would be the one question. And the second question would be, are you suggesting that North Plymouth residents, if they are a witness to excessive speeds or excessive noise, they are encouraged to call the police department?
So let me answer the first question, sorry, the second question first. If the chief was here, he would say, please call the police department. Because if folks aren't calling the police department, they can't identify trends. And those trends really drive their deployment plan for their police officers. So the data I presented is all the information that they have to date, and so that's certainly going to drive some of his decision-making moving forward. And the data we have today is better than we've ever seen. We made a decision 2 years ago to hire a crime analyst looking at taking the police data we collect on a regular basis, analyzing that data on a weekly basis, and then using that data to drive our decision-making relative to law enforcement. So the data we have today is great. But again, I would reiterate to everybody in the room, if you see something that you feel should be addressed by the PD, you must call them so that they can address it immediately. And then I'll circle back with the police department relative to your request regarding Court Street.
So I do have some suggestions from the neighborhood in terms of whether Court Street, if there could be signs posted, just identifying what the speed limits are, because there aren't any. And also, I think you answered the question about exhausts, which have been a real issue on Court Street, specifically by the Holmes Reservation, where it can resonate across the field. So they tend to like to rev their engines and just send it along. I can sleep through anything. I'm a 68-year resident in the same house. So I sleep through 18-wheelers, car accidents, shootings, you name it, I can sleep through it all. My neighbors and a lot of people on other people on Court Street cannot. So maybe if you could look into whether signs could be posted for speed limits, that would be appreciated. And then I would like to thank you for addressing a good portion of the issues that you requested from me, Chairman Golden. Thank you very much.
Of course.
The one general statement I would make is North Plymouth doesn't have a lot of open space. We have a lot of vacant lots. And believe it or not, we have a lot of privately owned beachfront properties, which you see developers are very interested in. And I guess what I find in my tenure with Plymouth, being a resident for longer than Dickie, I think, because I'm older than you, Dickie, I think.
You can have that one.
I'm sure. But I think we're very reactive with how we address development. Dickie has long been a proponent of trying to maximize beach access for the community and everything else. And I think that we need to take a more proactive stance. We know there are vacant lots in North Plymouth. We should be looking at the Scarsies who have that vacant lot and say, hey, what are your plans with it? I believe Mr. Scarsi has a beachfront property that was just recently, beachfront home that was just recently sold. So those are the residents, lifelong parts of our community that maybe we should be reaching out to see what their plans are, because if there is beachfront property that becomes available for sale, we should be looking to acquire it as a town and making it more available and accessible to the residents. And not only of North Plymouth, because North Plymouth does have a lot of beachfront property, but for everybody in Plymouth. So those would be my comments, and I would appreciate if, I know we have a master plan. I will confess that I have not yet read it, but I think we need to take a more proactive approach in terms of how we protect North Plymouth, because it doesn't have any land, any open space, other than those few trees that Pulte wants to build on. But yeah, you know what? We've got a great neighborhood in North Plymouth. I'm a North Plymouth girl through and through, always will be. And we need to protect what we have in North Plymouth. Mr. Quintal is a North Plymouth guy. Mr. Canty, I believe, So we embraced it, we love it, and we protect our neighbors, and we also want to protect our properties. All right? And with your help, hopefully we can do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pratt. I'm sure my colleagues from North Plymouth would be interested in responding. Mr. Cohen?
Just to build on what Ms. Pratt indicated, and that is trying to find opportunities to preserve open space in North Plymouth. We have the Skazi Preserve out by the highway. Obviously, there are opportunities in and around that location. But more importantly, yes, in a neighborhood where it is where opportunities to get to Plymouth Beach are limited. There's a long tradition where North Plymouth did have a beach, and we should be looking at waterfront opportunities to bring that beach, because that's something that North Plymouth once had. Years ago with the Cottage, they had a beach. And there have been opportunities when the lumberyard went up for sale, and when these properties are going up for sale, where there were missed opportunities. We should learn from the mistakes in the past and focus our attention. I'd be more than happy, as a member of the Community Preservation Committee, to direct the attention of that committee to look at these open space parcels in North Plymouth, especially the waterfront access points. Thank you.
Mr. Canty?
So I have the fortune of living in a part of North Plymouth that is right near a nature preserve off the Sawmill Conservation Area. But it is an area that could use more open space when it becomes available, certainly. It's an area that, you know, Plymouth has a lot of different parts of the community, some urban, like North Plymouth, some suburban, like West Plymouth, where I grew up, and then obviously rural areas like South Plymouth, where we started these on the roads. North Plymouth has a lot of unique characteristics that are different from those other areas. And so I think the good news is with Plymouth, we have about 38% of the town is in some form of open space protection, which is good. The goal for the Commonwealth is to get 30% of all land in open space, some type of open space protection by 2030. So we're actually ahead of the curve on that. But areas like North Plymouth could use more of it in the future as we plan for open space, further open space development. In particular, I agree with the idea of increasing beach access for residents as well. I would not avail myself of that because I'm far too Irish to make much use of the beach. But for those that do not run the risk of turning into a lobster within 10 to 15 minutes, I would support trying to increase that access for folks in the community. North Plymouth is a great place, and I think it has a lot to offer, and I look forward to seeing it improve in the ways we'd like. Something like the Pulte project, I think, is not the right solution for this area. So I think, again, it's important that we oppose that and that we support community involvement and community engagement in shaping the future of this area for all of our residents to enjoy. Thank you.
Other comments from the board? All right. Is there anyone else who in the room would like to talk about, well, there are a variety of topics, but I'll start with traffic, speeding, signage. Come on up.
This is technically about the Pulte project, but it is traffic
go for
related. All right. Yeah, so I realize the Pulte project is in the hands of the ZBA, and I also, I'm not an expert on these things. I also understand there's like open meeting laws and things like that, so it sounds like technically you're not allowed to kind of put the pressure on the ZBA as a board. I do appreciate the both of you coming to those meetings.
Can you just identify yourself for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Alex Cook. I live on Prince Street. Where I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, so I really appreciate the two of you coming to the meetings, and I'm just here to share some information. I imagine that if this project is denied by the ZBA, or if it goes into an appeal, that this board would get involved at that time. So that's why I'm kind of here to share this information. At the last ZBA meeting, the board, in a majority, they did not support the idea to do an opposing traffic study. So after the meeting, I spoke to the town's peer reviewer, and I asked him, like, hey, I haven't heard anybody mention this yet. How did they get the count data? And he said he didn't know. So I thought that was kind of strange, and he said that's typical. But it's troubling to me because I would assume a peer review would include getting that count data, knowing how you gathered the data, and maybe reviewing and making sure the data is accurate, things like that. I've later read the traffic study and dug into that a bit myself to find out that Pulte actually gathered all their count data manually. So I forget the exact term, but it's like turning point counts or something like that. It's just industry jargon to say that they use human beings to count the traffic. So that's kind of troubling to me, especially because I went and sat at that Prince Street intersection for 15 minutes, and I counted a rate of 1,200 cars an hour, but they reported 1,000 cars an hour. And there's all sorts of other issues with the traffic study, like they said they did it in February on a weekday, but they never shared the exact date they did it. Did they do it on Monday, the 17th of President's Day? That sort of thing. So the other thing I asked the peer reviewer was exactly how much the traffic study would be, and he said 80,000, which is quite a bit. But I guess fundamentally for me, the issue right now is about getting better count data. And he also mentioned that all these guys, the traffic engineers, outsource the count data, and usually they use cameras and things like that, and I don't know why Pulte use human beings. But it just kind of brings me the idea that maybe this board could put out to bid and find somebody to put cameras up and just do 24/7 traffic counting data, to get prepared and have this at the ready, should this be appealed. So really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak on traffic, speeding, signage?
Again, Matt Tavares, Precinct 1. I just wanted to, oh man.
You can take it off the stage.
I just, again, through you to the town manager, regarding traffic. I know you answered some questions on just leaving here from Alden to get onto Standish. If anyone is going that direction, be careful as you pull out. But also, one of my constituents had reached out to me regarding Oak Street, and I know that was part of a broader traffic study about, it was the age-old secret in Precinct 2 and kind of some native Plymothians that was a great cut through from 44 to Summer Street. It's now very popular, especially during the summertime. So I know that at one point I had some discussions a number of months ago, maybe even last year, about possibly looking into some solutions there, and I'm just not sure where it went. So if you could just off the record or whatever, let me know, that'd be great.
Yeah, we'll certainly follow up with the DPW on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
I just want to make a quick note on the traffic studies that are conducted at different times during the permitting process. You're right to direct your interest and attention in your remarks back to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Obviously, they're entering into this discussion, but having served on that board for many years and sat through many traffic studies, the peer review process is the process they utilize. But I often used to ask for a truly independent study of traffic by having the town provide that information. If we were to end up in a scenario where we had to defend our argument for traffic, it would be a good idea for us to begin that traffic study ourselves and not rely on the petitioner for that information. So looking for a truly independent traffic study is something that you are focused on, and I'm glad to see that, and let me know how I can help you with that.
Mr. Canty?
I think we should, as the process progresses through the ZBA, avail ourselves of any opportunity to give ourselves more ammunition to fight that particular project. And I think we should use it as a bellwether for opposing other 40B projects in the community that this community does not want. There's at least with the formerly Claremont, then Avalon, 40B, out by Sawyer's Reach over by Colony Place, they were willing to produce a water pump for us at a rate that was better than we could do ourselves. And they were going into an area that, while not everybody was happy about, at least it had a minimal impact on other residential developments pre-existing. This is one that's going in an already congested area, and they want to do as little as humanly possible to make an existing issue better, let alone the issue that they themselves are going to create. And that seems to be what more and more of these large out-of-town developers want to do in Plymouth. They want to tell us they're doing a great thing, build a project that is good for them and their quarterly returns, and leave us with the bag, carrying the bag after the fact, a burden that lives with us for years. I think it's far beyond the time where we should be just taking this. As I said earlier, we should start fighting more often, and we should, so that we have a reputation as a community that if you don't work with us, we will make it difficult for you. For many years, we have had a reputation, unfortunately, that we're unfriendly to businesses. And I think some of that's unintentional, and it certainly is undesirable because the commercial taxpayer helps make it more affordable for residential taxpayers to live here. But if we could get that reputation accidentally, seems to me we could intentionally get a reputation as being hostile to 40B developers, and that might serve us well going forward, because it would encourage them to come to the table with more to offer us in the future. Because right now, they're just using the state statute and all the power that they have and all the money that they have to force projects down our throat that we do not want. And if we don't stand up for our residents, then these people are going to make the plans for our community, not the people sitting here, not the people on the planning board, not the people in the ZBA. It's time to fight, and I intend to continue to do so. Thank you.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes, obviously I completely agree with everything that you said. This project makes me crazy for so many reasons, but most of all because if it goes forward as it's planned now, it's going to leave this community so much worse off than it currently is in so many different ways. And Mr. Cook, I have to applaud you and the other members, the other neighbors, how you've rallied around and just you're like dogs on a bone, just keeping the pressure on, and that's exactly what we need. So please don't stop now. You're doing an amazing job, and I think that this project will be a great case study for what Plymouth is really all about and how we can come together as a community to fight, even if we don't win, but we at least go forward trying. The last thing I'll say about the traffic study, because you also know how I feel about that. I definitely would love to see one done, but I did a lot of research earlier in my career, and I do know that it's very easy to make the data say whatever you want it to say. It can tell whatever story you want it to tell. And I think that that's exactly what we're seeing here. So we do have to keep a microscope on this project and question everything that comes before us. So thank you again for everything you're doing.
Excellent. All right, so that was 3 on traffic and speeding and signage. Ms. Pratt also brought up open space. Is there anyone who would like to speak on open space? All right. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on a different topic? Come on up, Mr. Malaguti.
Everett Malaguti, Vice Chair of the North Plymouth Steering Committee. So I may digress a little bit, but one of the major issues that we have been talking about within the steering committee, but also as parts of other discussions throughout town, is the identity of the village centers. Naming place a possibility of a new historic district. The rationale for this is we are unique in North Plymouth compared to other parts of town. While other parts of town had certain industries, we are the only part of town that basically grew up around its industry. The main parts of town, basically the downtown, had mills in it, but they didn't create a town around the mill. this area of town created a town around the mill. And this area of North Plymouth has seen a lot of changes in the past 2-3 decades, especially due to development and identity through cultural aspects and architectural aspects. Namesake Cottage itself, but also the surrounding neighborhoods and roads that lead into and around North Plymouth. So while we did enact over the past couple weeks, the town appointed its new slate of historic members for the new commission that was set for the entire town ward. I think it is adamant that this is the first direction that this new committee tasked is creating the outreach and creating the framework for a new historic district that encompasses either part or a large portion of the properties that culminated with the existence and development of the cottage itself, which is basically the heart of Plymouth, especially the North Plymouth community. With that as well too, I know that other members have spoken on this, but if we want to preserve the identities of the community, we should also approve the protection of those assets that make the uniqueness of not just Plymouth, but of its village centers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malaguti. Mr. Cohen?
Mr. Malaguti, at Fall Town Meeting, an article was passed to form a historical commission. Yes, we have a historical district commission that looks at the permitting process relevant to historical impact in our downtown, from the lights at 44 down to reliable cleaners. But for the first time now, we have a historical commission. It's much different. It's going to be looking at the historical resources for the entire town of Plymouth. An entity like this can now devote its time 100% to looking at expanding the historical district into North Plymouth. I think that's the next step. We saw an expansion down at downtown Plymouth into the Bradford Street neighborhood along Union Street as a result of losing the oldest building on our waterfront, the 1857 Foundry. So that was quite painful, but at least from that pain, we were able to expand the historical district, and we can do that for North Plymouth. Now that we have a historical commission, we're going to be having the ability to focus their attention on identifying. And in North Plymouth, not only do you have the cottage, but you have some unique architecture. I know that when we lost Ernie's, we lost a beautiful Victorian. And when we got CVS, we lost a beautiful Dutch colonial. Some of the houses that line Court Street in North Plymouth were quite impressive, and we lost them. And so again, learning from the mistakes in the past and now having a historical commission, I look forward to seeing a North Plymouth historical district to protect those historical resources through the village, because we are losing them at a rapid rate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on village centers or identity? Is there anyone online who would like to speak on the topic? All right, we'll move on to the next topic. Come on up, introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Mark Adams. I'm a resident in Westerly Road, Precinct 2. And I first like to thank the members of the board for serving. I know it's a lot of your time, effort, dedication to serve the community, and it's appreciated. So thank you. I have a couple of questions. It is related to the Pulte 40B, but this question is generally on 40B. It's my understanding that there are two options for a town like Plymouth to deny a 40B application. One is the 10% rule of subsidized housing stock. But there's another
Can you get a little closer to the microphone? Sorry.
Sure. There's another option that's available for the town, and it's a little bit of a complicated formula, but I was wondering if the town has looked into this, where it's the land that these subsidized housing units are built on that is calculated to a percent to the total countable land that's in the town, and basically it's a complicated formula, but if the town can satisfy that, it also has the power to deny the permit. So my question is, has the town looked into this other option, and what has been the result? And if not, is that something the board would consider looking into to see if that's a viable option?
Mr. Brindisi, do you want to address that?
just clarify your question regarding the town denying the 40B permit?
Well, again, it's my understanding, I've read the law, 40B law, and, you know, it's always come up that there's the 10% housing.
Right.
Right, that's understandable. But there's another aspect to the law that provides the town the power to deny a permit based on a very kind of convoluted formula that the town would have to come up with based on the land area that subsidized housing sits on as a ratio, a 1% ratio to basically what is countable land in the ratio, right? So they take out pond, they take out highways, they take out federal land, municipal land, county land, state land. And if the area of these subsidized housing units are on is 1% or greater than this countable land, that gives the town, my understanding, the right to say, all right, that's it, no more 40Bs, because we've reached this threshold.
Right.
So has the town's legal department or the board, have you looked into this option to determine whether or not it's feasible, or we're way off, or is it something we could use?
Sure.
And therefore, maybe the horse is already out of the barn before we close the door here in Pulte, hopefully not. But that's something I would ask the board if they've looked into this.
Well, I'd start by saying, I think you know this already, the select board sent a letter to the state housing authority almost 5 months ago, encouraging the state to reject this application. So you know that's on record. I can't answer your question because I want to defer to Attorney Amy Questle, who is the town's attorney in this Pulte negotiation. So I can certainly circle back with you. I can ask her that question. But I would imagine they have explored that, especially given the landmass of this community. We're probably not under that threshold. But I don't want to answer for her, but I can certainly ask that question and circle back.
Okay, thank you. And the second question is it even possible at this point for the town to consider taking that land that Pulte wants to build on for these 3 projects in eminent domain for some, public purpose, open space, walking paths, or is it too late?
I would defer to town staff on that.
Yeah, that's a complicated question. I mean, and legally, the town could take property by eminent domain. I think we'd have to have that conversation with the select board, certainly to determine whether or not that is an appropriate action in this situation. Yeah, I'd have to think about that one.
Mr. Canty?
So taking by eminent domain, though, is complicated, and we'd have to pay fair market value for the land. So that could very well be prohibitively expensive for the community that's already, you'll hear next week, if you watch our meeting next week, about some of the budgetary constraints we're already living within. I believe it would likely require further town meeting action in order to effectuate. And the next town meeting isn't until after the ZBA hearings have to be concluded, which presents a problem. Theoretically, we could call a special town meeting, but that costs in and of itself about 40 grand to do. Also, and doing it mid-cycle for the spring would also really complicate the budgetary process in other areas. So I think a taking through eminent domain would be likely not practicable in this instance. And you sent me a message about that topic that you asked earlier, which I've started looking into. It's not something I had heard of before, to be honest, about the percentage of land. I do, as a preliminary matter, think, I agree with Mr. Brindisi, that just the sheer land area, because we have the 105 square miles that we talk about Plymouth, that already takes out 30 miles worth of ponds. So there's quite a lot of terra firma in Plymouth that we'd be contending with. So looking into it,
Excuse me, but
yes.
to your point earlier, you had mentioned that 38% of our lands are open space. So
Correct.
So
Correct.
38% of the land is open space, so that could, that's why I think about this.
Yeah, I think.
Factor, it could be
And I think
feasible.
looking into it is making sure, I agree we probably have looked into it, but double checking that is important. We should use every tool we have at our disposal. We shouldn't just assume we've already looked into that.
Right.
But I'd be pleasantly surprised if it were the case, but I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised in this instance.
Well, we know our answer if we don't ask, right?
Well, yes, and I agree, and that's my response to why we should fight. We know what the response will be if we don't fight. We'll lose anyways, so we might as well fight, I think.
All right, and I thank the board for, opposing this 40B.
Yes.
And I fully support it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Anyone else from the board? All right. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on 40B? Come on up.
I think Mark posted about this idea on Facebook, and I saw it. And I do software engineering for a living, so I went on to the Mass GIS. It's like the website where you can see every property, every parcel, and I got an export of the entire state data, and it's all these messy files that aren't really human readable, but I wrote a script to look at all that data, only get Plymouth. Every single parcel has a category to it, so I excluded all the ponds, all the commercial, all the parts of that law that those specific exclusions, because the formula is that they want to see that 1.5% of the total available buildable land is affordable housing is on that land. That's what the state's looking for. So in our case, it's like 23,000 acres are buildable in Plymouth. So that means you need 427 acres of affordable housing stock. So the second thing I did is just kind of look up all the affordable housing properties that I could find, sorted those by the biggest acres, or what I thought would be the biggest, and I just started adding all of that up, and I came up with 127 acres, so we're pretty short. I stopped counting. It might be worth a community effort to keep counting. Maybe there's some 300-acre parcel out there, I don't know. But I kind of gave up on that, but I'd be happy to email it to the board. I'll give you guys the full source code. Maybe your IT department can do like a peer review of that. And the spreadsheet too, maybe Mark and I could dig a little bit more into that. But I thought a good strategy might be to just put a single, just like Pulte, do the bare minimum, just put a single tiny house affordable unit on 300 acres, and we're done with 40B. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have a commitment from Mr. Brindisi that he will follow up on this with the council that's assigned to it.
Yeah, I already made notes to follow up with Attorney Questle.
Beautiful, thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak on 40B? Anyone online? Very good. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on any other topic? Is there anyone online who would like to speak on any other topic? Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on any topic we've already covered? Is there anyone online who would like to speak on any topic we've already covered? Very good. Well, thank you folks for participating in this. I think this gives us a lot of great work that we can hone in on and hopefully address the needs of this part of the community. So thank you all for being here and for participating. We will move on in our agenda to the select board discussion. I'll start with new business. Is there any new business from the board? Mr. Cohan?
Yes, I just wanted to make note, tonight there was an interesting meeting in southern Plymouth, not North Plymouth, in Ellisville Harbor, at the Hollow Farmhouse, which is owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Conservation Recreation. They've owned the building since they acquired the land. The land is a state park, and the building that was on it was leased for many years. It fell into disrepair after its lease. But if you drove by it recently, you would have seen that it was entirely reshingled, its roof and siding. It was a neighborhood effort. Residents came out on their own. They got some bundles of shingles, and they fixed the hollow farmhouse and stabilized it. It was in, wasn't tight to the weather. So it was a kind of a quiet community preservation effort. DCR was so impressed with the neighborhood's resolve to save the old farmhouse that they are looking at it now as a possible mini headquarters for DCR, to have an operation in Plymouth, have an operation in meeting space for DCR in Plymouth, and utilizing the first floor for bathrooms for the beach. So when people pull up to park and go to Ellisville Harbor, they may have resources there at the Hollow House to make their visit that much more pleasant. But at the same time, I thought it was interesting that the Department of Conservation and Recreation was looking to have a seasonal office in Plymouth at this location. So anything we can do, I'll look into it further and let staff know how they might be able to reach out to DCR to encourage them in this investment in Plymouth. It would be a nice thing to see. The other thing I just wanted to touch on under new business is obviously we received some information from Shallow Pond. I know I saw some things that were coming in that we may be entertaining for articles for the Springtown meeting. There was an email that came in. I'm sure that we'll have some answers to how we're proceeding with Shallow Pond in terms of the time frame. So I hope to hear back from what staff thinks what the Shallow Pond paving of that road question might look like in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Just for folks' knowledge, I am working with both the neighborhood and the DPW to get a meeting together to discuss how we can move forward with acceptance of those roads. I think there are a number of issues that we need to work out, including title issues, the method by which, first of all, the condition of the roads at this time and the method by which we would effectuate repairs to those roads. So there are some issues that we need to work out, but we can certainly talk more about that in a future meeting. I had put a placeholder on next week to see if we would want to advance an article. From my perspective, I don't think that we're there yet. I would rather work with the DPW in the neighborhood to come up with a plan before we put it before the board, but certainly during our discussion next week on articles, folks can certainly bring that up.
Thank you.
Any other new business? Letters? Mr. Cohen?
We do have one letter that came in from some residents in Cedarville about 71 Hedges Pond Road, inquiring about the status of that permit and are they in compliance. I did see later this evening there was an email that came in from the town manager saying that town staff had looked at it and it was compliant. I just also, I didn't know if the town manager wanted to speak to that.
He's lurking behind you.
Oh, he's lurking behind me. Okay. I was just, we got this email asking about 70 Ponds, Hedges Pond, are they compliant? Because if you see the pictures of the removal of sand, it's quite dramatic, and we want to assure the residents that town staff is working with the petitioner to make sure they're compliant.
Yeah, so I'm happy to. So the board received a communication over the weekend from a concerned resident, believed that the current gravel removal at 71 Hedges is not in compliance with the ZBA decision relative to gravel removal. And so I asked town staff to take a look at that site, do an analysis, and come back and report back to the board. And they've done all that, and they did state in their communication that currently the developer is compliant with all of the permits that have been issued. They do get monthly reports from the developer relative to the amount of gravel that is being removed on a monthly basis. So town staff continues to work with the developer to ensure full compliance with the approved development.
Thank you.
You. Oh, you're welcome. Any other letters? Any old business? Mr. Canty?
So a few weeks ago, we had EEA in to talk about the climate adaptation update, and they had mentioned that sometime in January, they could have a list of projects that they would recommend together. So since we're starting to populate January meeting agendas, I would just request that sometime in January or thereabouts, we have them back to talk, as opposed to a generalized update, about specific projects that we could prioritize in the near term due to obviously the downtown resiliency grant, at least temporarily falling through. There's the possibility we could get that in the spring. There's also the possibility we may want to do that of our own accord with our own dollars. But having that type of a strategic planning discussion due to the importance of climate change to the community with so much coastline, I think would be very important. So I would request that we, sometime in January or thereabouts, have that on an agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Canty. Other old business, Mr. Cohen?
I think this is new business. Oh, old business. No, we're on old business. Yes, I have something for old business. I noticed we're working on filling positions on committees and boards, and we're making those appointments, and we're reminding people to come in and get sworn in. Just want to make sure that they're all getting copies of the guiding principles now that they've been appointed. I know the clerk's office in the application process does include the guiding principles, but I guess when they do come in and get sworn in and they are now a member, they should be given that document when they get sworn in, the guiding principles. It's just a thought I had. I guess the town staff can think how they might want to, if that's a possibility. The other thing I wanted to talk to the board was, obviously, Burt's is scheduled for its demolition. I did get a communication from a resident, Mr. Serkey, who had offered his services to the town to help, research what the status is of those permits. He did reach out to indicate that he was looking at the state Mass DEP application process and was concerned that there wasn't something there at the website. So he was, he still remains interested in volunteering his time. So at some point, we should reach out to Mr. Serkey and indicate where we are in working with the petitioner. We had an update last week, which was very helpful, but I think we need to keep on this. And finally, well, not finally, just I know that we've talked about having another workshop. I'm happy to work on a location and plan a date in the future where we can kind of finalize some of the things that we're working on at our last workshop. So let me know how I can help on finding a location for the workshop. The last time we had a workshop was down at Center Hill. Maybe there's another location in Plymouth that we can commit to when we do the workshop. So I'm available to work on that. And finally, tonight we received a notice from the town manager about the Historic Commission. He has collected some applications and he's presented to us. We'll make a decision on who's on the commission. I do think that we should take the time and reach out to the Great Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe here in Plymouth. They're recognized by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we might reserve one of those positions on the board from someone from that community. It's something that I'd like to see as we embark on this commission to look at the town and all its historical research. I think it's important to have the indigenous people represented, the Wampanoag people here in Plymouth represented on that commission. I'd like to see if we could reserve one of those positions for someone from that community.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. I'll touch on a couple of those things. Let's you and I touch base outside of this to talk more about the workshop. Mr. Serkey, we got a fresh email from him during this meeting in which he says he's satisfied with the status of that filing, which happened, I believe, this afternoon around 1 o'clock. So Mr. Serkey is pleased with the direction that the town is moving in where Burt's is concerned. Lastly, I think with the guiding principles, Jade, I believe that you include those in the appointment letters as a link. Is that correct? Very good. So they are most certainly getting those. Other old business?
It was the question on the Historical Commission.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going to move to appoint that. I just wanted to get a feeling of the board on that, how they'd like to proceed with that, if that idea is something that would be supportive.
I'm certainly to take a straw poll from the board. Is anyone interested in hearing Mr. Cohen's idea of reserving one of the spots on the Historic Commission for a member of the Herring Pond Wampanoag tribe? Mr. Canty?
I think he should partner with the town manager, who my understanding of the current provisions of that is that the town manager makes a recommendation of candidates that we then approve or not. So I would encourage Mr. Cohen to meet with the town manager to discuss that in detail, and then have a more robust advocacy effort next week when we're talking about it, and then we can assess it at that time. I'm not saying I'm not open to the idea. I just would want to know more information and about the process, because this is a new endeavor that we're embarking upon. And I know there are certain provisions envisioned in how we're implementing it, and I want to make sure that we're following those provisions.
I did have an opportunity to reach out to staff and meet with Derek and let him know of my interest in this. I did see the email from Derek to our board indicating these are the recommendations.
Right.
I just, before we get too far down the line of choosing people for this board, I just wanted to come back to the board and indicate this idea that I had of including someone from that community.
I understand.
So,
I would like you to have, what my request would be that you and Derek talk about this further between now and next meeting.
all right. Okay, thank you.
Other old business? Action items discussion? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yeah, I think we only had two. They were pretty clear. Oh, sorry. I think we only had two, and they were pretty clear. One has to do with treating our immigrant community with respect and dignity. I think that's a big action item for all of us. And the other was to, continue looking at ways to fight against the Pulte project. Fight is probably a very strong word, but I think that's what we're doing. I didn't hear any other specific action items. I know there were a number of questions that were raised during this discussion, the discussions we had tonight, but I believe that they were all addressed directly, especially the questions that were posed to you. So I think that was it. I think we're good.
Thank you, Ms. Iaquinto. Anyone else? All right, our next meeting is scheduled for December 16th. We have a number of items on our agenda. They are posted on this agenda. It's not necessarily an exclusive list, but you can get some preview for what we're going to be discussing next week. These chairs are deeply uncomfortable, so I would solicit a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Canty makes the motion.
Second.
Is there anyone who mercifully seconds? Ms. Iaquinto
Yes.
seconds. Any discussion? Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes, we're adjourned. Thank you.